Wait, remember Atomic Puppet? It was a short-lived superhero cartoon from 2016 that centered around a comic book fan whose life changes forever when he gets the chance to not only assist the superhero he admires, but also gets to aid in saving the day with him. But not so much in probably how you're thinking. Something here is clearly different, because the idolized superhero is now a puppet and can only get access to having his powers by being placed on a hand, combining the two together to make them the Atomic Puppet.
Puppets, am I right? Sorry, I don't own any actual puppets, only these Japanese Pokemon finger puppets. Anyway, the series plays into that wish fulfillment of both getting to be a superhero as well as being important to someone you idolize.
It's a fun concept, but coming out in the mid-2010s when superhero shows and movies were everywhere, could Atomic Puppet stand out from the crowd? Did the unique puppet setup as well as the story setup offer enough to bring people in and hold them? Or was the show not garnering enough of an audience?
Today we're going to take a look at Atomic Puppet, see what it was all about, and ultimately what happened to it. And I hope that we all get to go on one heck of a heartfelt adventure. Get it? Felt?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Alright, whatever, roll the intro.
Atomic Puppet follows firstly the character of Captain Atomic, voiced by Eric Bauza, who is a superhero that, after letting his ego get a little too out of control, ends up getting turned into a puppet by his jealous sidekick, Mookie, voiced by Peter Oldring, who then turns villain technically because of this, while still trying to parade around as an actual hero that no one ends up accepting, for a laundry list of reasons. And now for the city, Captain Atomic is missing. And speaking of him, now being a puppet and all, he can only get access to his superhero abilities and powers again if someone were to wear him on their hand. Which is where our other main character, a kid named Joey Felt, comes into play. Joey, voiced by Eric Bauza as well, is a comic book enthusiast and the biggest fan of Captain Atomic. So when their lives intersect and the opportunity arises, a new hero is born thanks to Joey placing his hand in the puppet form of his favorite hero, transforming them both into the new hero of the Atomic Puppet. Honestly, it should be the Atomic Puppet. When I read the title of the show, Atomic Puppet, it feels like it's just missing the, but that's a me thing. Both of them need to find a rhythm and work together so that they can become the hero the city truly needs, as well as what each other needs as their friendship begins. The show is filled with all the tropes you'd expect to see in a superhero story, like Joey having to protect his secret identity, initially only letting his best friend Pauline in on it. Pauline, voiced by Lisa Norton, is just as much, no, actually more knowledgeable than Joey when it comes to the world of comics. You can easily understand how these two comic book fans became friends and built a shared love of enjoying them. Plus, she gets to fit the role of being the person trusted with this knowledge and aid in helping him hide his secret identity, most times by covering for him, or in some cases tagging along and aiding in helping save the day somehow. The world of characters in the show also bring a lot to the table, whether they are more personal and close to home, literally, like with Joey's parents being the constant struggle in his life to deal with, as his dad is strict and tough while his mom is overly worried about him and his younger sister, or whether it be more expansive with the hero and villains of the universe, especially with their Justice League-like group of heroes known as the Justice Alliance. There's a lot of cool stuff to explore within this series, but how did this all come together? How is it technically a Disney XD show while not being a Disney XD series? And what fate would it ultimately have when all was said and done?
Atomic Puppet will be right back. Now, back to Atomic Puppet.
The series was created by Mark Drop and Jerry Leibowitz, who then brought their idea of Atomic Puppet to the animation studio Mercury Filmworks. From there, whatever base ideas they had would be reworked and built upon by Mercury. Andy Coyle, the series director, along with Travis Williams, the director of development at Mercury, would be the ones to oversee the process of taking what was brought to them and turning it into what the full series would be. Andy would state, "We looked at it and said, well, we could probably take this and turn it into something that's really cool. We could take the kernel of the idea and reimagine it in a way we feel would be a really great show for kids." Travis added on by saying, "We thought what would happen if Superman turned into a puppet, but it had to be more than that. It had to be a guy who had a bit bigger of an ego, a legendary hero who fell from grace." By January of 2013, Teletoon Canada picked up the series for full-on development, and from there, Mercury would end up co-producing the series alongside Technicolor, as well as later later on in December of 2013, bringing on Gaumont Animation, with another new pickup to add to the list, Disney XD, bringing the potential eyes of the series to great numbers as Disney would have a larger worldwide market to distribute the show on their network. The stars were all aligning for the series to find a nice-sized audience. There were a lot of talented people working on the series, from those who were writing it to those animating it, and a few years later, Atomic Puppet would premiere on July 18th, 2016, at least on Disney XD in the US. Disney XD in France would get to premiere it first a few months earlier in mid-March. However, the US Disney XD would get a special sneak peek of the series in May ahead of its July release. While we will get to what happened from this point on in the series, Atomic Puppet ended up offering some great character dynamics that really steal the show. Something that truly brings in a special reason for you to like and care about the characters is the friendship built between Joey and AP. They bring in a real wholesome nature to the show that, well, I think Clint Ellen, the president of Mercury Filmworks, said it best. On the surface, the show appears to be a comedic superhero-driven show, but when you watch it, it's very clearly a show about two best friends. Travis continued this by saying, Joey and Atomic Puppet really need each other. They both need each other for different reasons, and that's the best way they form together as a team. These sentiments can be spread to several character dynamics in several different ways, like how we understand Mookie's relationship to Captain Atomic, and how their emotions, egos, viewpoints, and circumstances led them to be at odds, as well as sending them down paths where Captain Atomic needs to be humbled a bit and really understand the meaning of working together, while Mookie strives to become what Captain Atomic once was for all of the wrong reasons. There is kind of a fun character study here to be had with a character like him, and honestly, he kind of reminds me of Syndrome from The Incredibles, and a bit of his story in connection to Mr. Incredible. But man, one of these two really got the short end of the stick here, you know, being stuck as a puppet. That's just like the time I got turned into a cup to do an ad read.
Hi everyone, it's me, Jordan Fringe. Can't you tell from the beanie? I was turned into a GamerSupps shaker cup and I need your help. To save the day, I need all the energy I can get, and the only way for that to happen is by you yourself getting energy. So if you want to drink something with great taste that makes you feel energized and focused, head down to the link below or use my code FRINGE, for 10% off your order every time you order. It directly helps support the channel, and it will help me turn back into a human.
Legal disclaimer. You do not need to purchase anything at all in order to help Jordan Fringe turn back into himself. This is a joke for the video where Jordan Fringe isn't actually turned into a GamerSupps shaker cup, but what is real is that by using his code FRINGE, you can save 10% on your order every time you order, as it does support the channel, and funny enough, Jordan Fringe is voicing this disclaimer as well, and he isn't sure why he is referring to himself in the third person, but here we are. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Much like how comic books can have a wide variety of genres and tones that are played around with, when working on Atomic Puppet, they all wanted the series to not be scared to be one type of story or genre in one episode, and then be a different one in the next. If comic books can play in these different genres, then so should their show, giving them the room to bring out more of who these characters are and the world that they are in through shifting the tone of the series. This element of the show works greatly in the favor of having plenty of cool episodes that let our main characters shine and grow together while we experience them experiencing something new. Plus, another thing that really works for the series is that it has a nice look and feel of an actual comic book, as yeah, it does kind of look of what the Loud House was going for, using that style to its advantage to make the look of the characters and the world that they live in more natural and fitting with one another.
Be right back to Atomic Puppet!
Back to Atomic Puppet!
The animation in general, when it comes to how fluid the animation is, really becomes a character all its own, allowing for some fun action with a bright and vivid color palette that makes the series visually pop. It's no wonder how the series ended up getting pretty rave reviews initially, and even ended up getting nominated for a couple of Annie Awards, with one for Outstanding Achievement in Character Animation in an Animated TV/Broadcast Production, and another for Outstanding Achievement in Storyboarding in an Animated TV/Broadcast Production. The characters were cool and likable. The look of the show mixed with the animation was easy to pull you in, and while not being the most amazing show ever, still delivered some solid entertainment that may have been slept on, as after the first season came to an end on February 16th, 2017 with 26 episodes totaling 50 segments and having some cliffhanger elements baked in to get you interested in more from the show, the series just stopped and pretty much disappeared. Now, we already know how this whole thing works, right? A new series comes out, then after a short run it disappears, and then we hear nothing about it. No real explanation why. But this technically isn't a Disney show, so what happened? Why did it just come to an end and then seemingly disappear? Can you hear that?
That's the sound of radio silence. While I can't directly link the lack of hearing anything about the show either coming back or being canceled on Disney, it really follows a lot of the same roads we've gone down before with the most recent shows I've talked about on the channel. This one ends up being aggressively silent. Not a word from Disney, nothing from Teletoon, nothing from the animation studios, just silence. Now, while we can't look for a direct answer of what happened through the official sources of those who made, produced, or aired the series, we can go off the usual leads that caused the show to be canceled or completely hidden and see if they apply here as well. The viewership numbers for the show didn't seem to be that great, not for the lack of quality, but for how it wasn't marketed that much, and many viewers saw it as this filler show that would release in between other main programs that people are tuning into the network for anyway. For it being on Disney XD, where you'd assume that it would fit the mold for what the network was wanting, since it was a more action-oriented series, it was surrounded by many other series, some that would befall the same or similar fate, and some that would be the big juggernauts of the channel that took most of the viewership and attention. This is really a larger problem when it comes to the markets like here in the US, where the series is on Disney XD, as opposed to it being on something like Teletoon in Canada or France 4 in France. It would have really been funnier if it was France 4 in, I don't know, Mumbai, but that's just me being a goofball. But the majority of the worldwide markets that it premiered in, Disney XD, was where the series was going to get the most eyes on it. Or, in this case, I guess lack thereof. The series falls more in line with what you'd find in the 2000s with Nickelodeon's Nicktoons Network channel, where a lot of shows were picked up by Nick for syndication onto their network as almost filler slots that they weren't as worried about doing so well. Unless this series out of nowhere immediately built this massive fan base, the series was doomed from the start when it came to how Disney would see it and use it. What does suck though is seeing it come and go without any information. Not that we are ever owed an explanation as to why something is canceled or just not picked up for more episodes, it just genuinely always feels like a rude slap in the face from the decision makers. From a business perspective and from a behind the scenes production perspective, I understand why being silent on the matter probably is the best option for them, but as a viewer, whether you're a casual viewer or a massive fan, not getting the chance to understand what happened truly sucks. Just makes you scratch your head and go, why? It doesn't matter if the main audience of the series are kids, because those kids will eventually grow up and make a YouTube video talking about the series, wondering why, what happened, and then deep dive until they get some understanding. Oh, no, not me. I didn't grow up with the series and spend my nights not sleeping over not knowing what happened. No, I just don't sleep over the fear of that if I close my eyes an ad break will happen. Watch.
Atomic Puppet will be right back. Now, back to Atomic Puppet.
So what can we then truly understand? Maybe, just maybe, it actually was Disney's fault in a lot of ways that hurt the chances of it being continued. Because, clearly Disney made it clear that they didn't care if it did. They probably wouldn't have picked up more anyway. How do we know this, aside from just seeing the other million examples of shows they've done this to before? Well, they acted like the show was never really there. It wasn't promoted to get eyes on the series, it was given a bad time slot, and after 13 episodes, it was kind of taken off the air for a while before coming back to essentially dump the remaining episodes a couple months later. A lot of it out of production order, by the way, but that last offense isn't as bad when it comes to a show that doesn't technically rely on that. Now, what's really the big problem was the thing we see too often nowadays, where a network, and I guess we'll just use Atomic Puppet for this example, will get 26 episodes of a cartoon here, which is produced together as one season. But when it gets in the hands of the network, they then split it in half, making it seem like there are 2 seasons that have 13 episodes each, when in reality, it's only ever been 1 season. This practice is way more aggressive today. It has awful financial problems when it comes to technically not having to pay the cost of, let's say, 2 seasons, screwing over those who worked on the series while the network or platform continues to benefit from it. But that's a whole larger discussion to really deep dive and break down. But regardless of however the network treated it or saw it as, there's so many sources that can point you to the correct answer. Like, you can tell something like Atomic Puppet was officially only 1 season thanks to things like Matthew Haynes' Tumblr, he's someone who worked on the series, and there he posted ideas and artwork that he created for what could become a reality in a 2nd season, with this posted on November 28th, 2017, 9 months post the final episode of the series, with him mentioning him not knowing if there will ever be another season. Heck, it feels like the Atomic Puppet had to be the one to market itself, posting promotional videos online about the 13 final episodes as
as they were about to premiere and making it as well known as possible that it is all, both sets of 13 episodes, one season. At the end of the day, I guess the reasons why we aren't getting another season aren't going to matter. The series came and went in less than a year, and everyone involved has moved on to other projects. And it's also, you know, been a decade basically. If I can convince you of one thing here, it's that when stuff like this happens, or a show only lasts a season or a company decides to hide the series away and act like it never existed, is to understand that it doesn't mean that the show doesn't have good qualities, or isn't worth checking out. Not every show is going to be this incredible must-see masterpiece, but there are tons of hidden gems ranging from just enjoyable to really good that end up, for whatever reason, getting a short shelf life before disappearing. Atomic Puppet, while not perfect by any means, tries to have fun with a silly concept while playing into the tropes of the superhero genre. Sure, you'll get your villain of the week type feel, which I know isn't for everybody, but it does work decently enough in the format they are going for here. All of this complemented more so by the main two characters and how they interact with one another, which is so funny to think about because both are voiced by Eric, so if anything, knowing that fact makes you realize how talented he is as a voice actor to bring both of them to life so well as they go back and forth with each other. While we most likely will never get a second season, at least we have this extra little short released for Christmas in 2016 that got posted online as a happy holidays message from the show and Mercury Filmworks, and you know, that's pretty nice. Anyways, while I think there is a lot to like about Atomic Puppet, from the concept of the series to the art style and animation, the series didn't do enough new within the superhero genre to have stood out at the time it came out, and even when revisiting it today. But like I said, that doesn't make it a bad series, because overall I still had a good time watching it.
Also, all I can see is kind of like this Crash Nebula look when I'm looking at the main characters, but I think that's just a me thing. But let's make this a you thing. You tell me your thoughts on Atomic Puppet. Should it have lasted longer than it did? What parts about the series did you like or not like? Let me know all of that and more in the comments down below. But thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like on this video and to subscribe for more videos like this coming soon. But until then, later.